Hello and welcome to Flying Bobbins. I'm Liz, and this month in the Sew Along Club we are going to be making the Ilford jacket by Friday Pattern Company. If we haven't met before, welcome to the cabin. Each month I feature a new video sew along for you to follow, and each month I feature a new pattern that's really fun to sew and hopefully you will learn a lot from as well. So this month, like I say, it's the Ilford jacket by Friday Pattern Company. This is an incredibly popular style. It was very much requested that I should do a sew along for this one in the Sew Along Club. This is a really versatile pattern, that's the first thing to say about it. It goes from a size extra small up to a 7X, so that is a chest measurement of 32 inches up to 60 inches, or if we're working in centimetres, 81 up to 152 centimetres. So a really wide range of sizes catered for with this jacket. Not only that, but this can be worn no matter, for men's wear, women's wear. It's a very androgynous, suits everybody kind of a look, very classic, and you can really give it a completely different look depending on the fabric that you use to make this jacket as well. So I have used a Cambridge twill here for my jacket, and this is by Lady McElroy. I stock this fabric in 3 colours in kits to make the Ilford, and that is the khaki or the hunter green that we've got here, as well as navy and burgundy. But as well as that, you could make this jacket in a denim, you could make it in a cord, you could make it in a brushed check, a jacquard. Even I've seen people use quilted fabrics to make this jacket. It really is so versatile, and you can use it time and time again to make a different style of jacket. Now the jacket itself, the pattern includes 2 different lengths, so this is the shorter of the 2. I did lengthen it slightly to fit my husband. This is my husband's jacket I've just made for him. So you get 2 lengths, and then you also get 2 different sleeve styles, so a plainer sleeve with a wider profile, or a traditional sleeve with a placket and buttoned cuff. You can finish this jacket with buttons or snaps. You can kind of style it to be a more jacket look or a more shacket look. If you used a flannel or something like that and then use smaller snap buttons, that would give it a more shacket feel. So it's a really nice trans-seasonal layering piece that you can wear either as a shirt or like an overshirt, or as a lightweight coat. The jacket itself is unlined. I do think there are modifications to include a lining as if you wanted to do that, but this one is unlined. You'll see by looking at the interior that you do have lovely bound seams, and all the interiors are finished really beautifully, so you don't get any raw edges showing, and it is actually something that you could make without the use of an overlocker. You could just make this on your sewing machine. The other thing that's really great about this is the choice of pockets. You have, I mean, goodness me, how many combinations, it's countless. You've got 3 or 4 different pockets for the hip, 3 or 4 different pocket ideas for the chest pockets. You can customise that with top stitching, with bar tacks, with contrast fabrics. If you've got a check, you can play around with the check direction. So this is a designer's dream, because you have this basic block of a jacket that you can then design into. You could even put pockets on the sleeves to give it that utility combat feature as well. So it really is something where you can go crazy with the design. You could also use contrast fabric for the underside of the collar, for the underside of the pocket flaps, and for the interior of the cuffs, for example, to give it even more design features. So really the world is your the world is your oyster. With this jacket you can just go for it and design and create many different looks with just this one pattern, which is why I think it's one of the things that makes it so popular. So sewing level, I would say that this is a really great introduction if you've not sewn outerwear before. It's a gentle introduction into sewing a coat. It will take a little bit of time because obviously you have to do all of the finishing on the pockets. You've got the buttonholes, the collar, the cuffs, all sorts of different details to learn, but then none of them are difficult, and they've all been done in a really nice and easy way. So for example, the collar construction is extremely easy, and if you've not done a collar before, this is a great place to start because it's a really nice easy way that they've done the collar for you, and they've thought about really how to finish the jacket interior as well, with all the lovely features on the inside of the jacket. So it is a great project, I would say, for a confident beginner and beyond. So a confident beginner who's just ready to push themselves onto this next level of dressmaking project. So if you're inspired to make the Ilford jacket for yourself or as a gift, then please do check out Flying Bobbins, where I stock the patterns, my full video tutorial covering all of my tips and techniques that I featured and covered in making this jacket. And also I have a range of kits. And if you do want to check out the Sew Along Club, that is my monthly online sewing club with a new project to follow every month. You get exclusive access to very, very detailed video tutorials, a great online sewing community, a monthly meetup on Facebook, discounts, pre-orders, and the list goes on. So please do check that out, and I'll pop a link below if you're not already a member. It's a fantastic way to learn dressmaking, or at least I think so. We've been going for a few years now, and yeah, it's become very popular, so do take a look if you want to kind of progress onto making really, really easy wearable clothes for yourself and your friends. So with all that said, I'm going to move on to doing a quick tips and tricks video for this, what I learned making this jacket with my top tips. But before we progress on to that, just to say, I hope you enjoy making an Ilford jacket. You can find links in the comments below to the full video sew along, the Sew Along Club should you wish to join, and also any other kits or patterns that I have in stock for this lovely project. So anyway, I hope you do decide to sew along with me this month. If you do, don't forget to share anything you make with the hashtag Flying Bobbins Sew Along Club. And I can't wait to see what you make. So welcome to my tips and tricks video for the Ilford jacket. Now I've just finished making this jacket, and I did learn a few things along the way that I'd like to share with you. And you can obviously watch the full video sew along, but if you're a very competent sewer and you just want a quick delve into my suggestions for this jacket, this is the video for you. Okay. So first of all, this is a unisex pattern. It's described as a pattern for all gender identities. It's very androgynous. You can make it for men and women. It accommodates all different body shapes, and there's a very broad range of sizes. Having said that, I do think there are some considerations to take into account. I presume from having made the pattern that this was originally drafted for more of a woman's body. And if you look in the information booklet inside, they say that this was drafted with a 5'6" B cup model in mind, I think. So that gives you a clue as to the fact that this was actually originally designed for women's wear, but can obviously be worn by absolutely anyone. And I think, you know, as a woman wearing a man's jacket, it's quite a nice oversized feel. If you're a guy wearing a jacket that was originally designed for women, then there might be some considerations for adapting this pattern so that you get a nice fit. So I'm going to talk you through those now, because I just made this for my husband. So first of all, when taking measurements, it really is worthwhile looking at your wardrobe sample. So a jacket or a shacket or a shirt that already fits you in the way that you wish this jacket to fit you, and take the measurements from that to reference back onto the pattern to choose your pattern size. Is always a good idea. So look at your body measurements by all means, but really do reference which size you are going to cut based on some measurements taken from your previously made or shop bought clothing items. In particular, look at the width across the shoulders, the width across the back, and the width across the chest. Now my husband was coming up as a small, but I did hit him a medium, and the reason for that was because although he's slim in the waist and hips compared with the women's wear standards, across the breadth of the chest, and in particular the shoulders and the cross back measurement, he does need more space. What I also found was with the measurement here, so you have a dropped shoulder. It's a very easy construction to add the sleeve in, but this measurement here can be a little tight. So if I went for the body measurements for my husband, I would have cut a small, and in that instance the sleeve would definitely have been way too small. So if you're going to cut a small, just bear in mind that might give you too much of a tight fit around the whole armhole and sleeve area, and what you might want to consider is cutting a small in the body to give you a nice slim fit if that's what you're after, but still give yourself a larger, and I actually think I ended up cutting a large sleeve and armhole, but a small to medium body. So you can actually mix and match. If I made it again, I might even want to extend this seam slightly further and bring this down slightly more, just because when that folds down there in everyday wear, you do have sort of a slight tightness across this area here that I don't get. My husband has chunky arms, and especially if you've got a jumper on as well, you just want to make sure that you've got enough room. So typically when we're dressmaking, garment making, we look at the circumference measurements of bust, waist and hip, or chest, waist and hip. It is really worth also looking in detail at how big you want this armhole to be and how big you want the bicep in particular to be, in order that you can comfortably wear a jumper underneath this jacket without it being too tight. So it's worth looking at that. And perhaps even if you're cutting a small, then go for a bigger size around the armhole area. Okay, so with the pockets, the designer has really left it up to you on this pattern, so there are no pocket placements already mapped out on the pattern. I would say that it's definitely worth, or I much preferred, sewing the pockets on to the front panel before constructing the rest of the jacket. I would find it quite awkward to completely finish the jacket and then sew the pockets on at the last minute, even though that gives you the freedom to sort of fiddle about with how you want the pockets to be. What I did in the end was that I baste fitted together, so I just sewed the back to the front of the shoulder, draped it over, and then placed the pockets where I wanted them to be, had a little play around with the tissue paper, and then unpicked the shoulder. It's only two very small shoulder seams to unpick, and then you've got your pocket placement that you can then do on the right and left. And I just think it is easier to get those front panels lined up, get the pockets lined up, and get those sewn on as the first item that you're going to do, the first process that you're going to do on this project, and then you can just sew up the rest of the jacket. You can always, you know, if it's terrible and they're not aligned up, you can always unpick them, but I think it's just easier to have it sort of lined up before you constructed the whole rest of the jacket. And if you're going to do that as well, just make sure that you bear in mind where your facing and your hem is, so that you get your pocket positions how you want them to be. And of course, pocket positions are personal, especially if you're making it from a menswear to a women's wear garment. Think about how they sit on the bust, how high up they are on the chest, and keep moving them around until you get your ideal pocket layout. So like I said, I used a Cambridge twill, which is 100% cotton twill, for this jacket. So it's like a kind of a denim-y, canvasy style of fabric with a twill weave. I used Gutermann denim thread for the whole jacket, and what I found was that makes a really nice top stitch without having to constantly change over between top stitch thread, top stitch needle, and then regular thread, regular needle, and it just made the jacket a breeze to sew up while still giving it nice top stitching features. Obviously, if you wanted to use a contrast colour and make more of a feature of the top stitch, then you would have to be switching and swapping your threads. But if you're doing self-coloured top stitch, as I have done here, it's a really nice idea to use the denim thread for that. On that note as well, I also added bar tacks to the tops of the pockets. Not only does this make it stronger, but it also adds a really authentic and professionally finished look to the jacket. So one other thing I would say on the fit of this jacket, I did actually lengthen the body length. So I took the shorter of the two styles, but I lengthened it. And I also lengthened the sleeve by quite a bit as well. So that's the other modification that you might want to look at if you are making this from a women's wear into a menswear fit. And I hope that helps and gives you some ideas for sewing your Ilford jacket. I hope you really enjoy making your jacket, and I shall see you next month in the Sew Along Club.